start then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Get one more chair.
There's a few more over there. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today, and to David and the Higher Education Center for hosting. My name is Kyle Rosner, and I'm the Deputy Broadband Advisor. You know, even though today is an event about getting folks online, it feels really great to be here in person and gathered together, so thank you for being here. I'd like to recognize some folks on the broadband team who couldn't be here today. Evan Feynman, the Chief Broadband Advisor, who is sorry he couldn't make it today, had a Tobacco Commission meeting. Deputy Secretary Cass Rasnick, Dr. Tamara Holmes, the Director of the Office of Broadband. These folks, along with Secretary Ball, Courtney Dozier, a former member of the broadband team who's now Policy Director for the Governor, and DHC Director Eric Johnston. These are the folks who have led the way these past 4 years and have made today possible, so thank you. I'd also like to recognize some of the stakeholders we have here in the room today. Scott County Telephone, those folks are here today. They're working on universal bill.
a row, so congratulations to Virginia. And when we talk about what makes us such a business-friendly state, there are things like workforce development. And I want to thank the community colleges across Virginia. We have 23 great community colleges. As you know, we have introduced the G3 program, Get Skilled, Get a Job, and Get Started. That allows individuals to go to community colleges just like this without incurring any debt, which is a big deal. We were also, regarding education, able to give our teachers a 5% raise this past year. So to our legislators, thank you so much for doing that. Transportation, very, very important to all of Virginia, but we've been able, because of our legislators, to invest just over $2 billion with a B to expand and upgrade I-81. We are bringing, as you know, rail to Christiansburg and Blacksburg, and then hopefully Senator Pillion, if we can, all the way out to Bristol, Virginia. So we have our work cut out for us. Health care, we were just in Lee County, Senator Warner and Todd, just a couple weeks ago to open a rural hospital that had been shuttered since 2013. I come from the eastern shore of Virginia. As you all probably know, we reopened a hospital there as well. So when other states are closing down rural hospitals, we are bringing them back to life. Part of this ARPA, this rescue plan money, will go $50 million toward tourism. I know that's very important, especially in Southwest Virginia, for people that want to come out and enjoy, as we call it, God's country. So hopefully that will help market what we have to offer here in rural Virginia. And finally, the fact that Virginia is a welcoming state. Our lights are on and our doors are open to people to come to our Commonwealth. So all of these things collectively have added to our business-friendly environment. I would remind all of you, and by the way, it is nice to be here today with no mask on and be able to shake each other's hands and give folks hugs. And if COVID has taught us anything, it has taught us the importance of universal broadband in our great Commonwealth. And whether it be for virtual learning or whether it be for telehealth or business opportunities or just quality of life, it is very, very important that we have universal broadband in Virginia. And I like to study history every now and then. And, you know, broadband in 2021 is really what electrification was in this country back in the early 1900s. And if one looks back at history, and often history does repeat itself, by 1920, most towns and cities had electricity. But by 1936, 90%, think about that, 90% of rural Virginia didn't have access to electricity. And the reason was, much as it has been today, is the cost issue. It cost a lot of money to get what we refer to as that final mile. And so what happened back in 1936 was Congress got together and established the Rural Electrification Act of 1936. And that helped finance it, helped put the resources in to make sure that we got electricity to rural Virginia. And, you know, this is personal for me. My family still lives on the eastern shore of Virginia. We're about 5 miles outside of a town called Onancock on a small farm. We don't have access to broadband. And so it has been a commitment of our administration since I started to make sure that everybody, no matter who you are, no matter where you are in Virginia, has access to broadband. And when I started my term in 2018, the Commonwealth, your Commonwealth of Virginia, was putting less than $4 million per year into broadband. Now, I asked for $50 million, and Senator Warner, you probably remember, having been in my shoes, that you don't always get what you ask for in Richmond. So we compromised at $19 million, and then we went up to $34 million. And this year and next year, again, because of the cooperation, the collaborative efforts of our legislature, we're at $50 million a year. Now, we still need more resources to get that final mile. And I want to remind you all, and I'm not an expert in broadband, but we have a lot of people that are working in that. We live in a very diverse Commonwealth geographically. the challenges that we have on the eastern shore where I come from, which is flat as this floor, are much different than when you're in the mountains. So it's going to take resources. And the reason that I am here today with my friends from the House, the Senate, and from the U.S. Senate is that we have $4.3 billion of rescue resources. We call it ARPA, A-R-P-A. And on August the 2nd, the legislature will return to Richmond and we will make a decision on how to use these resources. And we have already had discussion. We are in agreement, the money leaders in the House and the Senate, that we are going to put in $700 million, I want to repeat that, $700 million across the Commonwealth of Virginia of ARPA funds to get that last mile to everybody in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I will just close by saying you may look at me and say he's a patient man, but when I started my term in 2018, I brought folks together and said, how long will it take to get broadband to all houses and businesses in Virginia? And the response was 10 years. And I said, no, that's not going to work. So what we're doing today with this announcement, we are in a good position, well poised to have broadband to everybody in the Commonwealth of Virginia by 2024. That's just a couple years away, and I think that's something that we can all be proud of. And we wouldn't have been able to do this without strong leadership in Washington. And I am so proud that our friend Mark Warner is with us today. He fought for the resources that are coming out of this rescue plan. Whether it be for broadband or whether it be for children. Yesterday it was announced that they would be receiving tax credits across the Commonwealth. He has done wonderful work, and I know I have worked with Mark for a number of years. He has a special place in his heart for rural Virginia, as I do. And I just want to commend him for getting up every day and doing what's in the best interest of our fellow Virginians. So please welcome to the podium the 69th Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, His Excellency, Senator Mark Warner.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, everybody. I never get that response when I'm just introduced as Senator. Well, Governor, I'm going to try to take and I hope people understand how extraordinary and special the governor's announcement was, and I'm going to talk about that. I do want to take a moment of personal privilege, though, and I appreciate the fact, Governor, that you that we got Virginia back to being the best managed state. Yeah. I remember when it was first named the best managed state. Back during the tenure of the 69th governor, and you know what? Somebody who helped make that happen, because we always did it, well, he was a Democrat, we always did it in a bipartisan way, and that is, with all due respect to all these great new delegates, the person who will always be the leading delegate from Southwest Virginia, my dear friend Joe Johnson. Joe, thank you as always for being here. It's great to be back in Abingdon at the Higher Ed Center. I think about how many times I've been in this building. I think virtually every campaign I ever launched, I launched from this hallway. Not all of them successful. But this is what the governor's announced is actually the final step and a legacy that some of us in this room tried to start literally 20 plus years ago. It really was, and I've got to give credit to the Tobacco Commission, that first said almost 20 years ago, let's start at least laying, and this isn't broadband, but let's at least start laying down the 21st century infrastructure around fiber. And back in 2002 to about 2006, with the funding of the Tobacco Commission, we put more fiber into rural communities in Southside and Southwest Virginia, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, than any other state in the country. Challenge, though, as the governor mentioned, is that's great if you get that connected to the school or you get it connected to the courthouse, but it didn't do much good if you can't get it to the home. And we have seen with COVID, whether it's, as the governor indicated, telehealth, and I still remember, I think the very first real delivery of telehealth was back a few years, 10 plus years ago, in Wise, when we had the Mission of Mercy and the health wagon. God bless those wonderful women. You know, we had a relay from UVA down to Wise to demonstrate telehealth. We saw with COVID now that distance learning is not something that's gonna happen, it's something that had to happen. And the idea that the solution was gonna be, well, you can put your kid in the car and go drive to the school parking lot and create a hotspot there. Maybe that's okay for COVID, but that is not a long-term solution. And as somebody, along with the governor and so many in this room, I see my friend Will Payne here, we're always working on trying to see how we can bring more jobs, good paying jobs, to Southwest Virginia. I can't say that broadband, when we talk about broadband, let's make clear we're working under the governor's leadership, not to some slow speed like 25 down and 3 up, but much higher speeds. So you actually can see somebody on a Zoom instead of having to blip out every minute or two. And while we can't guarantee that this historic announcement the governor's making is going to guarantee we get every job we're going after, I can guarantee you this: if you don't have high-speed internet broadband in 2021, you're not even going to get a fair look from any company that wants to locate or bring jobs here, or frankly, some of our own who want to stay here and start great businesses. One of the things COVID's proven, you know, a lot of folks don't want to be in a big metropolitan area. We're going to give them that chance to come home or chance I know Israel's opened up one of the great trails you've got in Southwest. You know, you've got to have broadband. So this is a truly historic day. It has been a long, long time in coming. It is safe to say, with what the governor is doing today, there is no state in America that has as comprehensive a plan and this firm of a commitment to provide broadband to every home across the Commonwealth by 2024. That is remarkable. And again, Governor, I want to thank you very, very much for that. And let's acknowledge that it's going to take, and I strongly urge, I don't have quite the juice I used to have when I was His Excellency, but I strongly urge that our legislators put their money where their mouth is. And the amazing thing on this one is, Todd, you don't even have to take it from Virginia money. The Fed sent you $4.3 billion, you know, to make sure that those dollars are committed. If we make that commitment, you know, we're going to be able to provide that high-speed connectivity. We're going to be able to make sure quality of life, make sure quality of education, make sure that we do a better job on telehealth. And the other last point I just want to make is we are still looking at even potentially additional resources. You may read in the newspaper that we're back in one of these bipartisan gangs. I often mention I work in the only place in America where being a gang member is a good thing. I'm part of every bipartisan gang there is, and we're working on a major infrastructure package right now that will have additional funding for roads, that will have some of this rail, and my goal is to get not that rail just to Christiansburg, but down to Bristol. And it will have a series of other investments. There may be additional resources in there for broadband. But whoever gets out first with this statewide commitment, because nothing to our friends on the Tennessee side, but if we get this plan of the governor's implemented, we will be the first state in the country to have this comprehensive approach. Why is that important? One, it's important because it's for the best in business, best in broadband. It's also important because with the amount of resources that are going to be flooding in to this area over the next year and a half, we're going to see cost of broadband in terms of implementation go up because we're going to have a lot of resources out there. So let's get in and get those deals done right now. And also, one of the things I hope, I want no better place, and the governor and I have talked about this, is that this will also create jobs. Who's going to lay that fiber? Who's going to work in terms of installing? I know we've got the Elon Musk opportunity up in Wise County in terms of satellite. This will be fiber, satellite, maybe wireless. All of those installer opportunities. And the truth is, if we train those workers here in Virginia, and at the end of the day have to, once we get it installed in Virginia, they got to go do some work in Johnson City, that's still good for the regional economy. So this is a great day for Southwest Virginia. It's a great day for Virginia. And this is the kind of future that we all have imagined for a long time. And I want to just end with where I started, with a giant, giant thanks to our great current excellency, my dear friend, Governor Ralph Northam. Thank you, Governor. And I think we're going to do these rolling introductions, so I'm going to bring up somebody else who actually, well, you might not believe this, because she was actually a senator even when I was governor. She looked so young, but the chair of the Senate Finance Committee, somebody who's been an advocate for broadband, an advocate for making sure we've got fairness of opportunity all across the Commonwealth of Virginia, my dear friend, Senator Janet Howell. Senator?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be able to celebrate with you the fact that we're going to be able to have broadband universally available in Virginia years before we had thought we would be able to do it. And it's all because our Senator Warner was able to get the money for us to accomplish this. And we are extremely grateful to him. We're going to continue to prioritize broadband. We're going to blend the money sources so that it will be at least 3 years earlier than we had expected that we will have universal broadband. And we all know how important access to broadband is. It's essential for our businesses. It's essential for our educational systems. And it's essential for our personal relationships and keeping up with our grandkids and other people important to us. So this is a day truly to celebrate. And I have to say, regardless of your party, regardless of the region you come from in this state, we're all working together. We're going to make it happen. Thank you. And it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, one of the most respected members of the House of Delegates, and a very highly regarded pastor in my part of the Commonwealth, Delegate, Mr. Chairman, Luke Torian.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in Southwest and to be in Abingdon. I want to share with you guys just a little bit about the work that has been going on and how important this initiative has been for the governor and for Senator Warner and for members of the General Assembly. When it was determined that we needed to cover broadband throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, on Tuesday of this week, the executive branch, the leadership in the Senate, the leadership in the House, we met and we determined that broadband would be a priority now, and the money is expended now to cover the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. On Tuesday we met, Tuesday afternoon, after we finished our meeting on Tuesday, the administration called and said, can you all join us on Friday? We're headed out to Southwest Virginia to announce the importance of broadband throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. I share with you all today You have an extremely committed leadership in the executive branch, leadership in the Senate, leadership in the House, and on the federal level, we have the best two senators in the nation, Senator Warner and Senator Kaine. Thank you guys so very much. Before she became a big-time senator, she used to serve with us in the House. And then she got elected to the Senate. She represents Loudoun and Fairfax County. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Senator Jennifer Boisko.
Good afternoon, everyone here in Abington. It's good to see you all. I serve as the Broadband Advisory Council Chair and have served on that on and off since 2016. I would just like to point out that in 2016, we had $1 million to spend throughout Virginia on broadband. And so hearing that we have now $700 million being invested is unbelievably amazing for our ability to get this job done. And I want to thank Senator Warner for your work at the federal level, and of course, our wonderful Governor, His Excellency Ralph Northam, for your commitment to broadband, because you have really raised the stakes over the past 4 years. And our chairs of appropriation and finance have really put their money where their mouth is. Not only have we invested money, but we've done stuff legislatively to improve the ability for us to get the access. So Delegate Torian had a bill a couple of years ago that allows for a pilot program that lets our utilities work with our ISPs to do the middle mile, and I know that many of you all are here in the room. This past year I carried a bill that makes that permanent, and because we are committed to using every tool we have in Virginia to expand broadband throughout Virginia and to look at affordability. Another bill that we did this year allows our schools to work with the providers to make sure that they are using the every tool they have to get access to the affordability programs, and we're just going to continue on that because we know that not only do we have to have the broadband on the ground, but we also have to make it affordable for people, and we are committed to continuing to do that. And you know, Todd Pillion, your senator, is doing the best job ever, and I'm just so pleased to have him as my colleague and have gotten to know him over the past few years. So you're very lucky, and I know that his wife, who is on the council, is here in the room too. So good to see you in person, and thank you all for all you do.
Thank you, Senator. I am the only person who wasn't elected into his position today. So, I'm Gary Wood. I'm the CEO at Central Virginia Electric Co-op and at Firefly Fiber Broadband, an ISP in the state. And let me start by recognizing all the great work that Governor Northam and Senator Warner, Senator Howell, Delegate Torian, and Senator Boisko. I'm trying to remember all the names. All the work that y'all have done. As an ISP, we have work to do now. And I want to touch on just a couple of things that Governor Northam and his administration have done to really create an environment that brings more people into the mix and will allow us to get this built quicker. Since the early days of his administration, he has had staff members meeting with ISPs and asking, what keeps you from moving faster? What is in the way of us getting universal broadband across the state? And his team paid attention, and every time we gave him a problem, whether it was with the regulation or whether it was with a restriction that was in the code or whether it was a permitting problem or when we talked about funding, they paid close attention. And they did a lot of work with the General Assembly, and as Senator Boisko said, the work with the bill to allow investor-owned utilities to build fiber has been significant. We have partnered at Firefly with Dominion Energy outside of our electric co-op territory. Dominion Energy has also partnered with All Points Broadband up in Northern Neck and with BARC Connects and with Rural Connect. AEP down here in Grayson County with Gigabeam. Those programs are really important because they leverage that rural infrastructure that's already out there and that wasn't accessible just a couple of years ago. In addition, the more welcoming environment has allowed other co-ops who didn't want to get into the ISP business to develop partnerships. Northern Neck Electric and Rappahannock Electric, bringing those folks who are used to having rural utilities and rural infrastructure into the game just accelerates the construction much faster. But speaking of acceleration, the most important piece is getting it funded. And with all that we've done, we've moved from a standstill to what I would call a slow jog. The announcement today is rocket fuel. I mean, we've got to start sprinting. Building a mile of fiber in Richmond will take you past maybe 100 homes. The people who connect help pay for the cost of that mile. Build a mile in a rural area of fiber optics, you may go have 5 homes. It's a lot less people to pay. That capital cost is where we need the assistance to make it work. The grant funding for rural broadband projects helps offset that construction cost. It makes it more attractive to the owners of ISPs, boards of larger ISPs, and to bankers who work with the ISPs, because we have to still borrow some money to build the rest of that, and they don't like the risk if we don't have some other support. So this is, it's taken away all of our excuses. I want to thank again everybody who's been involved and tell you now it's time for us to get to work. Firefly and other ISPs will move faster and go further because of this support. You've done a great job, and you deserve a round of applause from everyone. Thank you so much.
Good evening. I'm Jason Berry, County Administrator for Washington County. And first, welcome to Washington County, Mr. Governor, Senator, members of the General Assembly. Thank you all for coming to Washington County. I've got a few bosses in the audience, so I better do this right? But anyway, Kyle asked me to speak about the impact of local government. So I got to thinking about that, and first, what I'd say about local government is broadband has become the #1 issue for local government. It now, ask my bosses, it now exceeds the phone calls, Mr. Governor, about VDOT road conditions. And I'm not making that up. You can ask them. It's become the #1 issue, so VDOT gets off the hook. So thank you for your significant announcement today in investing in the people of Southwest Virginia and the Commonwealth of Virginia. This will get the job done. But when I think about broadband, there's 3 words that come to mind: challenges. In local government, we have a lot of challenges, as you all know. But one of them is financial challenges, financial constraints. This will solve that. One challenge is geography. And in far Southwest Virginia, the geography of pulling broadband, like Gary said, is significant. And also affordability to service providers is a challenge. And how do we get over that in Southwest Virginia? We find partnerships, and you're doing that today, Mr. Governor, Senator. Partnerships, and my board has done that too, reaching out to citizens, engagement, creating committees to engage with the governments, funders, providers. All those are ways we get over those challenges. And last, I'd say opportunities. The funding you provide today is opportunities. It's opportunities for our citizens to have better jobs. It's opportunities for our citizens to learn in a virtual environment if they have to. It's opportunities for people to have employment and job creation. So these are all major points and impacts to local government. So I thank you for your investment. And last, I'd say thank you for investing in the citizens of the Commonwealth. So with that, this is the end of the program, and thank you.
Well, that was amazing.